My glow sticks ran out of battery. Just as the confusion reached its peak, a single point of light appeared in the darkness. It grew brighter and brighter, illuminating the surrounding area. It was Y's giant light bulb, glowing with an otherworldly radiance. As the light from Y's bulb grew more intense, it began to wash out the entire scene, fading everything to white. Everything is Wonderful. Tales of the Incandescent Illumination, number 8. The familiar bright light that heralded the beginning of each tale faded, revealing a mystical tie-dye forest. The sky above was a swirl of psychedelic colors, visible through the branches of strange, otherworldly trees. An early 1900s telephone ring pierced the air, incongruous in this bizarre setting. A slender arm with painted red nails stretched into view, holding a modern cell phone. The screen was a mess of scrambled colors, as if broken. The arm belonged to Allison, an average-looking 20-year-old with long black hair, wearing jeans and a purple and black flannel shirt. She sat up, rubbing her eyes groggily, and answered the still-ringing phone. A girl's voice screamed from the device, "Allison! Allison! Allison!" The third scream distorted into a robotic video game voice, startling Allison so much that she hurled the phone into a nearby bush. The impact triggered an ear-piercing screech, and suddenly a horde of centipedes erupted from the bush, their tiny legs carrying them in all directions as they shrieked. Allison's own scream joined the cacophony as she scrambled to her feet and fled. She ran through the forest, her cries echoing off the strange trees until, abruptly, the scenery changed. The tie-dye sky gave way to a normal blue, and the sounds of a festive carnival filled the air. Allison's sprint slowed to a cautious walk as she took in her new surroundings. At first glance, it seemed like a typical carnival. Jugglers tossed colorful balls in the air, and children bobbed for apples. A cotton candy vendor handed fluffy pink clouds to eager kids. Allison's tensed muscles began to relax, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. But as she ventured deeper into the carnival, things took a surreal turn. A man in bondage gear knelt at the end of a slip-and-slide, drawing a raised eyebrow from Allison. Her smile faded as she witnessed an acrobatics trio with swords, their performance ending in a gruesome display of dismembered body parts wiggling on the ground. An ogre manned a table covered in snakes eating their own tails. As Allison watched, the creature picked up one of the serpents, chopped it apart, and retied it like a balloon animal before handing it to an excited child. When the child bit into it, it popped like a balloon, reducing both child and ogre to tears. Lost in the bizarre spectacle, Allison collided with a dog walking upright, wearing a suit and reading a book. "Owix!" She started to apologize, but the words died in her throat as the canine shot her a dirty look and continued on its way. The strangeness continued to escalate. A harpy monster in a truck labeled Fried Human Hands sold its wares to a line of upright walking turtle men. A skeleton painted the face of a horse, atop which sat a man in a Fred Flintstone costume, vigorously pleasuring himself. Amidst this chaos, a talking snowman on a stage caught Allison's attention. It wore puppets on its hands, one of the devil, one of Jesus, and shouted, "If your name is Allison and you don't know what to do, go in there." It pointed to a tent shaped like a purple sphinx, its mouth gaping open to form the entrance. As quickly as it had appeared, the snowman melted away. Allison, surprised by the direct address, looked around the crowd. "I'm surprised I didn't see Bigfoot," she muttered to herself. Approaching the Sphinx tent, Allison gazed up at its eyes, then glanced back at the carnival crowd behind her. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the gaping maw. Inside, pitch blackness enveloped her. The only sound was that of her footsteps on stone as she ventured deeper into the Sphinx. As she walked, disembodied voices filled the air. A GPS-like voice intoned, "Oh, Stormwind, fulfilling your word, as the mother gives birth to eggs, seeds, and fetus, I too eat the larvae of the Most High. Stormwind, oh, Stormwind, why won't you forgive me? He loves me so, Stormwind, fulfilling his word." An old man's tortured voice followed. "The Magus has done his work well. He has saved this kingdom. It is time now to hang him. Oh, glory be, why, God help me, why. A little boy's voice piped up, because everyone needs balance. A chorus of children chimed in, we love you. The little boy continued, and I love the emperor and the Hierophant's playground. A little girl sang, the tower will fall, it will fall on us all, and I love to play topples the tower 'cause I'm a big star. A sensual woman's voice purred, the devil, death and art, oh, come unto me. A supercilious clown exclaimed, the sun and the moon are friends. A normal man stated matter-of-factly, it takes adjustment to get used to the spinning. The GPS voice returned, it talks to me, do you know that? What does, Edward? Edward responds, cold and empty the way that I know he is. Everything. The children's voices sang out once more, we will be a world. Frustrated and unnerved by the seemingly endless tunnel and its cryptic soundtrack, Allison finally burst out, how long is this tunnel? Just as the words left her mouth, she emerged into a small, dimly lit tent. 4 witches sat on 2 small, facing church pews. The Witch of Swords, a middle-aged woman with gray hair and brown eyes wearing green robes, stood first to greet her. Hello, youth. Welcome. I am the Witch of Swords. Next, the Witch of Wands rose a young, beautiful redhead with scarlet eyes clad in a black dress. And I am the Witch of Wands. Please come in and sit with us, child. Allison approached timidly, her body trembling slightly. The Witch of Cups, a beautiful young woman with curly blonde hair and blue eyes, wearing a sparkly light blue dress, stood and offered her hand to Allison with a reassuring smile. Don't be afraid, hun. She gave up her seat to Allison, who took it with a murmured thanks. Beside her sat the Witch of Pentacles, a frail old hag in shabby, tattered brown robes. Her gnarly teeth and dry lips were visible beneath thin white hair that revealed liver spots on her scalp. Her eyes were completely white. Hello, I'm Allison. The young woman introduced herself nervously. The Witch of Pentacles responded with a violent coughing fit. Allison, unsure how to react, awkwardly placed a hand on the old woman's back. Suddenly, the witch grabbed a handful of Allison's hair and sniffed it deeply, triggering another coughing spell. She maintained her grip on Allison's hair as she hacked and wheezed. You smell of the earth, child, the Witch of Pentacles rasped when she could speak again. The Witch of Cups leaned in, taking the other side of Allison's long hair in her hand. Maybe we should show her the rest, she suggested, her tone ominous. Fear flickered across Allison's face at these words. The Witch of Pentacles began to cackle, releasing Allison's hair as another coughing fit overtook her. The Witch of Cups planted a kiss on Allison's cheek, causing her to blush in confusion. Suddenly, Allison felt a strange sensation in her stomach. Looking down, she was horrified to see that her torso had transformed into a giant, ornate chalice. She screamed, her hands batting at the water that now filled her cup-like body. What's going on? She cried, turning to the Witch of Cups. Don't be afraid, sweet child, the witch soothed. But Allison's terror only grew as the water inside her cup body began to rise and overflow. However, as the water spilled over, an unexpected wave of ecstasy washed over her. Her eyes rolled back, a blissful smile spreading across her face. The room around them dissolved into a trippy collage of clouds and water, with little pomegranates floating about. Just as quickly as it had begun, the vision faded. Allison found herself back in her normal body, the ecstasy retreating as swiftly as it had come. She blinked in confusion, realizing they were now in an entirely new location. They stood on a mountain cliffside as evening approached. The 4 witches flanked Allison as they all gazed upon a Baphomet altar carved into the rock face before them. On a stone slab in front of the altar sat an incongruous modern coffee mug bearing the phrase, #1 Dad. A cryptic drum roll began to play from an unseen source as the Witch of Cups sauntered sensually towards the Baphomet statue. Where are we? Allison asked, bewildered. Shh! Just watch. The Witch of Wands hushed her. They watched as the Witch of Cups crawled erotically around the Baphomet statue, her movements syncing with the mysterious drumbeat. At the end of her dance, she approached the stone slab on all fours. Raising her head level with the mug, she smiled and licked her lips before grasping it with both hands. The Witch of Cups returned to the group, handing the mug to the Witch of Wands. As they both held the vessel, they exchanged foreboding smiles. Suddenly the sun began to set at an unnaturally rapid pace, plunging everything into an oppressive, pitch-black darkness. "Hello?" Allison called out nervously, her voice shaky in the absolute darkness. The silence was broken by the sound of something large slithering nearby. Without warning, a terrifying snake-dragon face lunged out of the darkness, its long body passing right by Allison as it fixed its gaze on her. Just as abruptly as it had set, the sun began to rise again, but at an impossible speed. It continued to rise and set rapidly, never allowing true darkness to fall again. Allison looked around in utter confusion as the Witch of Swords gently placed a hand on her back. "Hey, everything's going to be okay, sweetie, don't worry," she said with a warm smile. The Witch of Wands reached up into a nearby tree and pulled down a large branch. "Il bastoni!" she exclaimed. Allison watched, puzzled, as the witch began an impressive display of baton tricks with the branch. At the climax of her performance, she swung the branch downward, and it erupted into flames. The Witch of Wands stood in a martial arts stance, legs spread, holding the flaming branch like a warrior's staff. Allison clapped, impressed despite her confusion. The Witch of Wands approached the Witch of Cups, holding the flaming branch over the coffee mug she still carried. Both witches bowed their heads, eyes closed, and began to chant Om in unison. The sky quickly filled with dark storm clouds, obscuring the rapidly cycling sun. Thunder boomed ominously, and rain began to fall, much to Allison's dismay. As she stood there getting soaked, the liquid in the mug began to bubble and churn. Suddenly it sprayed upward in a torrent of bright green, whipping winds as the two witches continued their chant. The green torrent coalesced into a cascade of translucent, misty swords hovering above them. Allison looked on in terror as the Witch of Swords began to walk slowly, breathing as if in deep meditation. Without warning, she leapt into the cascade of swords, grabbing one in each hand. In a display that seemed ripped from an anime, she began to rapidly deflect the other swords in a blur of green battle. As Allison stood transfixed by the aerial combat, the Witch of Pentacles placed her bony old hand on the young woman's shoulder, startling her. "Are you hungry, puppet? Tired, perhaps?" the old witch croaked. Allison timidly shook her head, too overwhelmed to speak. The Witch of Swords landed on the ground, now wielding two real iron broadswords, her chest heaving with exertion. The Witches of Cups and Wands ran to join her, and the three began to dance merrily together. Suddenly, the trees around them began to catch fire as the raindrops hit them, each drop of water paradoxically causing the wood to combust. The entire forest was soon ablaze, the dancing witches continuing their merry celebration amidst the inferno, as Allison trembled in fear. "Do ye have fear of violence and death, child? What is it that you want?" the Witch of Pentacles asked, her raspy voice barely audible over the crackling flames. Allison fell to her knees, overwhelmed. I don't know," she whimpered. The other witches ceased their dance and formed a circle around the kneeling girl. One by one, they leaned down, their faces inches from Allison's as they spoke. "Have you no grasp over your own mind and senses, little girl?" the Witch of Swords demanded. "Does she perhaps have a lover she misses dearly and prays would come and save her right now from all of this wonder to behold?" the Witch of Wands mused. "Or maybe she has a town with a family and a religion and home life, maybe a job or school she can return to that loves her," the Witch of Cups suggested. "Well, child, answer us!" the Witch of Pentacles shrieked. Unable to contain herself any longer, Allison burst into tears. I want to go home, she wailed. The Witch of Pentacles leaned in even closer, her face nearly touching Allison's as she screamed, "Then climb back up the rabbit hole from which thee prodded thy nub of a head into so foolishly." Allison scrambled to her feet and ran from the witches, her screams and sobs echoing through the burning forest. She sprinted towards the tree she had first awakened under, but now a large, multicolored flower grew in its place. Without hesitation, Allison dove headfirst into the flower's center. As her waist entered the flower's mouth, it began to close around her like a Venus flytrap. But as it snapped shut, swallowing Allison's legs, it became clear that these weren't just plant-like appendages, they were actual sharp teeth. The flower's mouth closed fully, revealing itself to be part of a giant rabbit monster. It let out a satisfied burp. The witches looked on with disappointed expressions, shrugging at the turn of events. Who will pray for all these souls? Who is it that matters of matter? And wherefore will our everlasting God's carnival of illusion take us but here? The Witch of Cups pondered, pointing straight ahead. And of there, she added, gesturing dramatically. The Witch of Swords sat down, beginning to meditate and chant Om once more. A pity, I liked her, the Witch of Wands remarked, gazing at the spot where Allison had disappeared. You like everybody, the Witch of Pentacles retorted bitterly. The giant rabbit monster hopped over to join the witches. It lowered its head next to the Witch of Cups, who began to pet it lovingly as if it were a common house pet. It is good to feed, she mused. It is good to frolic, the Witch of Swords added, her eyes still closed in meditation. It is good to rest. Let's go home already, the Witch of Pentacles grumbled, her bitterness evident. A grin spread across the Witch of Wands' face as she uttered the final words of this strange tale. Everything is wonderful.